Hi, everybody. Today, we're going to be talking about body image. So for most little girls, body image is set by around the age of 5 or 6, which is amazing, isn't it? That at 5 or 6, you have an awareness of your body, of how you look, or of how people even perceive how you look. And then when you become a teenager, the body image continues to change and develop because, of course, your body is changing and developing. For boys, they're sprouting up and getting taller, getting more muscular, more body definition. And for girls, they're developing breast and hips and so on. So that's a big time of change when body image also has to change. So there are many things outside of ourselves that affect how we see ourselves and how we feel about our bodies. Things like a history of trauma, which we've talked about before, but trauma can definitely make you feel either alienated from your body, or it can make you feel like your body has betrayed you, or that you need to distance yourself from the pain that your body has experienced. So other things that can influence body image are, of course, culture. Social media is a big one. We know that for people who are on social media a lot, they're comparing themselves to other bodies, and then that can make them feel bad about their own bodies. Relationships can have an effect. Supportive relationships can help to heal body image issues, but abusive relationships obviously can make that a lot worse. So all of those have impact on body image. And if you have emotional eating, food addiction, or you're experiencing edit this, please. If you're experiencing food addiction, binge eating, or emotional eating, you may tend to have issues, of course, related to your size or your body image. And these include more significant large body attitude, or feeling of shame about your body, or internalization of the negative stereotypes about size and shape. And what I mean by internalization is we're all bombarded on a daily basis by images and notions about what we should look like. Get a bikini body for summer, New Year's resolutions, change your body size, all of that. So we're constantly bombarded by that. And to the degree that we're able to keep a distance from that and see that as, someone else's view about how I should look, versus internalizing that and feeling like, yeah, I should be able to get a bikini body. I should be able to fit into the thin ideal. That's when you internalize that bias and make it your own. And then you start feeling even worse about your body image. Sometimes messages from parents or teachers or coaches can also be, and let's not forget healthcare workers, of which I am one. But, I've said before that the healthcare industry is, the healthcare professionals are the number 2 cause of weight bias, and family and friends are number 1. So we know that there's a lot of body shaming that goes on when you go to the doctor's office, or when a nurse practitioner or a nurse is commenting on your size or telling you you can't be healthy without, losing weight. So if you are if you're struggling with food addiction, emotional eating, or binge eating, and you also hate your body, you may feel that you can kind of whip yourself into shape by engaging in negative self-talk. And this may be unconscious. It may just be a feeling of, look at that stomach. You need to get that stomach in shape, thinking that you're motivating yourself. But in fact, that is only doing the opposite. In other words, you may think that by calling yourself names, saying you're disgusting or whatever, you can force yourself to change your behaviors, to, be more active and so on. But it doesn't work that way. It works the opposite way. When you're, it's like if you have a pet, like a cat or a dog, and you're constantly yelling at them, they aren't going to become more friendly. Their behaviors aren't going to change through yelling. They change through more positive methods. So other commonly perceived stereotypes, and before I go on, let me just say that same thing, maybe a better analogy is if you have a child and you're constantly telling them, how bad they are, how awful that something they've done is without any positive reinforcement, that kind of negative self-talk will destroy a child's self-esteem. And maybe that's what happened to you. So think about that and ask yourself if you maybe internalize the voice of your mother or a stepfather or a coach or someone else, and now you're doing the same thing. You're, using that negative self-talk against yourself. So if you're doing that, you may want to try to interrupt that. And you can interrupt that just by not saying anything. You don't have to try to go from, I hate my body to, oh, I love my body. I have body positivity and all of that. That's a process. And we're all working on that process, but it takes time. But in the meantime, you can not say anything. When you pass by a mirror, if you hear that voice in your head come up with, oh, look at your thighs, then just either have a positive statement to or a neutral statement to put in place, or just remind yourself, I'm a work in progress. My thighs are strong. They're moving me through the world. Whatever you can come up with, you may not be there to say something positive, but maybe you can just say something neutral or not say anything at all. So, as one of my clients has said, and I've quoted her many times, you can't hate yourself then. So, if this strategy were effective, then a lot of us would not be dealing with, food addiction, emotional eating, compulsive overeating, and binge eating. So, it's research really has shown that if you believe these weight-based stereotypes, you're far less likely to take care of your body and to change your behaviors. So, body image is a picture you hold in your mind of your body. And for some of us, you may have experienced this, that as you get older, in your mind's eye, you still feel like you're 18 or you feel like you're 25. But then you look in the mirror and you're like, oh my goodness, I'm 40. The same thing can happen with body size and shape. So, while it's difficult to start to change that internal dialogue, it's really important to do so. I remember back a number of years ago, 17 magazine started what they call the Body Peace Treaty. And it was a document that teenage girls could sign, promising to never change their body or their faces in photos. And this was, in regards to all the doctoring of photos that are seen in these teen magazines. So the Body Peace Treaty was started by an eighth grader and who was against all of these airbrushed images in magazines and she got over 80,000 signatures. So that's, I think that's such a positive thing to do, for teenagers and for yourself. So I often encourage patients who are in my anchor program to look for role models in the media that are living in larger bodies and are happy and successful and, married and have children and living great lives, rather than always defaulting to trying to be like the skinniest person in the media or whatever your thin ideal has been. So looking for these healthier images of people in larger bodies is important because they show that smaller size you don't have to be a smaller size to be all you can be. And isn't that really the goal, to be all that you can be? The goal shouldn't be to look like somebody else. The goal should be to look the best for you to make your body the best that it can be, to make your life the best that it can be. And when you think about having a body that's the best that it can be, I know intellectually you probably recognize that that means a healthy body, a fit body, et cetera, et cetera. But in your mind, you're thinking, yeah, but what about my thighs? Yeah, but what about my belly fat? When you start to look at having a life that's the best that it can be, maybe you can prioritize where belly fat and your obsession with food or with your body fit into having a life that's the best that it can be. So being the best that you can be, it is an individual situation. Because you're a unique individual, you can't compare yourself to other people and try to be the best that somebody else, like be the best that, like I could say, oh, I'm going to be the best that Angelina Jolie is. No, I'm never going to be tall. I'm never going to be thin. I'm never going to be a famous actress, but I can be the best that I can be. So sometimes I talk about what are called archetypes, which are just an archetype is a pattern that exemplifies a certain behavior or identity. So think about if you were to draw a character, how sometimes on the beach they have those caricatures that are drawn, or if you were to draw like a cartoon character of yourself, how would you portray yourself? If you were to think about what image really represents the inner truth of who you are. Think about that. So I'm going to give you a few and see if you can, first of all, take a few deep breaths, because I know when we talk about body image stuff, things get a little heated and uncomfortable. So take a few deep breaths and see if you can, breathe into your body and just allow your breath to move through your body from the top of your head all the way to the tips of your toes. With the next breath, just feel the tingling in your body, tingling in your fingers, tingling in your feet. Feel some tingling in the back of your neck as you move it from side to side. Now take another breath, breathing in, exhaling, and let your body feel heavy and as if it's melting into the chair where you're sitting. So hopefully you can stay in touch with your breathing as we talk about body archetypes. So the first one I want to talk about is the sexy mama archetype. You may be this archetype and be proud of your curves and feel you have a right to flaunt them. You may show off your body in tight-fitting clothing, and your sexiness sometimes can be misunderstood because what you really want is not just sex, but a stable relationship. And the truth is, you want to be loved for who you are and accepted for who you are. So when we talk about these archetypes, there's what we see on the surface here, and then there's what's in our hearts. So what people may see on the surface, if you have the sexy mama archetype, is just what I described. But what they don't see that's in your heart is you want to be loved and accepted for who you are. The radical archetype, or we could call this the rebellious archetype. You want to flip off anybody who calls you fat. Being angry is your way of coping with fat shaming. And you see yourself as a fierce fat activist, which is great. And the truth for you may be you want people to pay attention to you and you want your voice to be heard. So if your anger could talk, what would it say about what it truly wants? So if that's your archetype, think about that question. The good girl archetype, you're a people pleaser. You prefer to avoid conflict and you want others, you want people to like you. That's important to you. You feel uncomfortable when there's conflict around you. And the truth is, again, when you're saying yes, even when you want to say no, what you really want is to be loved and accepted, to be appreciated, to be acknowledged. The do-gooder archetype, you're the person who can't say no. Sometimes people take advantage of you, but you don't mind because you're all about helping others. Well, what is the truth for you? In your heart, you just want to be included. You want to feel like you're connected and part of a group, part of a team or a community. So the question for you is, if you could never help another person, what would be missing in your life? Because again, the archetype is the surface, and then behind that is what's in your heart. And part of what's in your heart has to do with why you have put on this archetype, why you have developed in the way you have. There's so many more. I'll just mention one last one, which is very common, the wounded child archetype. And that's when you feel as if life is against you and nothing will ever go your way. In your heart, you want to be able to take care of yourself and stand on your own 2 feet, to no longer be a victim. And you want to be able to see others as, want others to see you as competent as you are, even when you don't feel competent. So the question for you is, when I feel as if life is against me, I'm feeling like I'm a victim, what would help me feel stronger? So those are some of the ways in which we can actually think about body image and what we're presenting to the world, what our kind of external picture says about us, and what's in our heart, and how can we actually match those two up. So we all play different roles in our lives and have different archetypes. There's not just one. And sometimes these roles come about from your childhood experiences, or you were thrust into the role of caretaking when you were a child, for example. You may have been, had to take care of parents when you were growing up, or chosen to become a nurse. So you continue to caretake, and unconsciously, you're not really looking at what that caretaking role means to you, or what the truth of that is for you. So there's no right or wrong to the archetypes we exhibit in life, but it's really important just to be aware of these archetypes and how they influence us. So hopefully this has been helpful to help you start to find your way back to a relationship with your body. In the next section, you will learn more. I'm sorry. Please edit in the next section. I'm going to start again. Hopefully you're beginning to feel your way back to a relationship with your body, and that you're learning more about how your body stores past experiences, and how you feel about your body affects your eating behaviors and your activity level and all of that. So I hope this was helpful. Dr. Carolyn signing out.